Well, first of all, I want to thank, I've only been here 70 days, approximately, and Jim Gonslow and I have worked very closely in trying to define many of the needs of the department, because almost every day there is something to be learned or something to be picked up when you initially come into a new situation. So I want to first of all thank him for helping me as I had to put this budget together. Hopefully, as I get more experience and we go along, I'll define additional needs. However, as you can see, we are down about $2,000 over our last appropriated amount this year, and basically I've tried to look at, as you can see, if we looked at the personnel services, the clerical and the longevity, that composes a great deal of the budget. That clerical function, if I can define the roles and responsibilities, because I've been trying to do that since I came aboard. Primarily, we have an assistant treasurer who's she is an accountant, and she makes most of the journal entries, and she also deposits items in the bank and checks as they do come in for us. And her area is the area of strictly accounting. The other clerk, full-time clerk that we have, focuses on payroll. We do use an outside payroll services, but she evaluates the contracts as to the payroll. And she also is responsible for doing pension studies. She's also responsible for doing a cemetery report occasionally. And so that is the second person. We are making improvements in that area from a perspective of trying to have Paychecks, which is one of the main providers, do some of the summarization for us such that we could create checks directly from Paychecks to go directly to the pension plans, to the union dues that we do have. So that will be a little bit of relief for us this year. The other person is a half-time person, which I share with Nancy. Basically, she comes down and focuses on accounts payable. She also focuses on issuance of the 1099s for us. So that is somewhat of the composite of the area of what their responsibilities are. We cut in telephone. We cut that expense down. We looked at the computer software maintenance. We reduced that because this is our second year under SunGuard, and so some of the additional training that we had to implement the new software package is no longer necessary or needed. So we cut around $3,100 there. Under the office supplies, we've tried to make some cuts there, and the computerized payroll service is still the best bang for the buck that we can, I think, get, because we're currently at $10,000 to have them process all of it, and I know that it's a very cheap cost to create that. The treasurer's report, as you know, is more like a cemetery report, which is issued at the end of the town meeting. We don't need any office equipment, from what I can see. Jim has sent down any of his old materials and equipment he doesn't need, he sends downstairs, and I appreciate that. And then we have the accounting standards boards. We have FASB 35, which is FASB 35 is the process of accounting of our assets. It's an asset valuation service. I think I wrote up CBIZ, which is used. And they control and track all of our assets, and they also track our depreciation on those assets and the control of those assets as well. GASB 45, of course, is the pension. Jim mentioned the fact the $60,000 savings in pension. Jim and I worked on that together, and basically that was a plus. And we're looking more and more at some of these expenditures and reserves that we have, and I think we're making progress there. However, asked Paul, when he was making the presentation, Paul Dancero, failed to really indicate the fact that this year in June, we're in what they call phase 2, which from the pension standpoint looks at the other benefits. And we have had some leeway in not booking that reserve or doing that evaluation. However, June of this year this fiscal year, we'll be in the process of doing that. So in addition to the pension costs, we're talking about health benefits and additional benefits that go with the pension plan have to be, quote, somewhat calculated. We have been working on some cash management projects, which I think are going to create some interest for you, by the way. The first one is check scanning, which will be, I hope, implemented with Citizens Bank in the months of March. Currently, we receive checks and we have, quote, a delivery of those checks to Portsmouth. We will now do them electronically and scan it for a while. We'll see how that scanner works. I think you have all gone to the stores, especially grocery stores now, and they take the checks and they scan that check. You keep that check as a document. However, that check and that amount is immediately recorded into your bank account. That's phase 1 of what I feel is an upgrade in our cash management process. The second one is a possibility in the beginning of the year, and we've talked to Citizens Bank about this, and going to a lockbox program where my hope is someday, within the next 4 to 6 months, is not to have any checks enter this building. From a perspective of that those checks go directly deposited within the bank, we get a report of what those deposits are, of course, so we can make our adjustments. But it would be wonderful if we could have a checklist society here at Town Hall, and we're going to hopefully drive to that direction, because the faster that money gets deposited, and you wouldn't believe sometimes we get checks that are 1 to 2 months old. And I'm going to focus not on our people, but basically on the school department. I called and I made mention the fact that we had received checks for, I guess it was from retirees that were several months old, and they had just sat on those. So my hope is to go to a checklist society in which reports are driven. I have now the accessibility to go into Citizens Bank online, see immediate deposits in all accounts, and we can make some strategies and decisions for investing. That's another area that I've spoken extensively with Charles Schwab and Citizens Bank on, and also Bank Newport. I want to keep abreast of current changes and what their offerings are, and my hope is to increase, even though it's not part of my budgetary area, but our contribution from a perspective of interest income to the town. If does anybody have any question on my operating budget or my somewhat plans for the operations downstairs? Everybody's interested in debt service, I think.
Yes.
Huh?
There we go. I have some questions on the debt service.
Sure.
Because that is a very large part. With regard to the TIF area sewer debt,
Yes, this is the recommended portion, 2009, 2010, right?
yes,
Let me just,
you put that in on a gross basis.
right.
Could you tell me, on the debt service reserve fund, what are we, how much is it, how much is in there, and what are we earning on it?
Okay. What we're currently earning on that reserve fund. On the TIF fund, by the way, that was issued in 2002, for the record.
That is correct.
And its current rate is 6.875.
Whoa,
That is our interest rate,
yes, okay.
6.875.
yes,
Okay. Now, the amount of principal and interest that we'll have coming up, the authorized amount was $8,295,000. Our principal payment in 2009 was about $445,000. The interest will be $473,000. And in 2010, the principal amount will be $340, interest will be $444, and that'll give us a $784, $334 amount.
That's not my question.
Okay.
My question is, you put in a gross amount,
Yes.
okay. The net amount is the earnings after the debt service reserve fund. What I want to know is, what's in the debt service reserve fund, and what are we currently earning on that?
Well, the reason why I put it as gross is we're earning a 3%. We're bringing 3% on the service reserve fund earnings. That 3% reserve fund earnings is netted from our amount, and that was, I'm reading from the Table 1, which focuses on which identifies how much earnings that we will be making on each of our
You're reading
years.
from Table 1 in what document?
I believe Jim did you pass these out? I had a document that the TIF, this was a schedule, that was a schedule of the interest. I have it before me.
No, I understand that. You're reading from the official statement?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My question is, I know there is a note to that effect, is that they assumed a 3% interest earned on the debt service reserve fund. My question is, what in actual fact are we earning? And wouldn't that be an offset to the gross amount that you have reflected here?
Well, the only thing,
No, you
my
don't-
knowledge of that was basically, I'm going by my schedule. They have fixed an amount of earnings. I have not checked with them relevant to what they are earning, but they're indicating to us that we can earn no more than that 3% factor of $24,885.
My question is, and maybe you need to get back to us with regard to the actual earnings. That was an estimated amount for the purpose of putting a figure in the official statement. That was in 2002, okay? It's now 2009. I want to know, what are we earning on that amount? How much is in that fund, and how much are we earning?
I will find that out for you.
Okay.
Hey, I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
On the new Ranger and the $12 million ban as opposed to bond.
Yes.
For fiscal 2007, 2008, it is at $268,000. When that goes to the bond, what can we expect for that?
Well, the Ranger School, take one at a time, if I could, Ed. Basically, on that, we are earning the interest, first of all, the principal this year will be about $365,000. The Ranger School, $380,000, Ed, will be the principal this year. And the interest will be around $470,725.
The only thing that really isn't fixed is the Picasset bond. That will be fixed when it goes out for permanent financing.
That's correct.
And that's that anticipation of 461,935?
Yes.
Yeah, that's-
Okay.
So the anticipation on Ranger is going to be...
By the way, Don, if I could, excuse me, and clarify that. Don, that $461,935 is an interest expense which is payable on the 30th of 2010. No principal on that. I'm sorry, Ed.
Okay, on the Ranger School, the same
Yeah.
thing, the anticipation, that payment would be $700,000?
On the Ranger School this year, if you look at the schedule on the Ranger School, sorry, the interest, the principal was 380. You want to go back to that schedule for you?
Well, again, all I have is.
Okay.
it
I do
says-
have schedules of each
Okay.
of
The
the...
850,725.
The 850,
Which is the total of the interest and the principal.
interest and the
payment.
principal. Yeah, well, the principal was 380, and the interest was 470.
And that's on a fixed amortization schedule. That goes on now. There's no variable in
Right,
that.
then once that.
That's-
That goes out for
Right.
bond. I had another question on these area sewer debt. At what point could we redeem or refinance that debt? At some point, we had an optional redemption. And at 6.75, I can't recall the exact amount of interest, you wonder if it might not be a savings to the town to refinance that.
Restructure that bond.
Yeah, just as you do your mortgages. And if you could save $100,000 by refinancing. Now, we might be a couple of years away from that, but that should be tracked. Do you know the answer to that?
No, I do not.
I think we're a couple of years away.
What was it, a 10-year?
I think it was a 10-year mandatory period.
Yeah.
Well, after 2009, Louise, it drops. We were paying really what they call two-term bond principals
I
on that
understand
amount. Now, after 2009, one goes away. The one of those goes away, and we were paying, for example, that accumulation was
125.
125. That stops.
I
That
understand.
stops in 2009. So maybe the answer to your question is maybe in 2010 might be the best time to do such a thing.
Well, it's laid out in the
In the-
indenture, and
yeah.
I think it's 2012. I think it's a 10-year.
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 So if it was an.
So, but it is something to track, because if we can lower that interest and principal payment through a refinancing, that would free up monies coming in to the town,
Yes.
because anything over and above the debt service,
Goes to the town.
Goes to the
from
general
yeah,
fund.
From the taxes from that TIF area.
and those rates on 10-year, at that point, it would be a
Yeah.
10-year bond.
Yeah,
I would think they would be
They may
quite
be, right.
substantially less.
from the 6,
0.875.
Yeah, and anything we could do to
yep,
help the school bond issue, we should be thinking about it.
okay.
Great.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the 30% reimbursement that we get. Does that go in the school housing aid line item?
Yes.
And is that 30% of the interest and the principal every
Yes.
year?
As long as we finance through Rybeck, it is both
Principal and interest.
principal and interest.
Every year,
Yes.
okay. And then do we get that on the Cassett bond this year?
If it goes to permanent financing, yes, we would, assuming they keep the housing aid intact.
Okay,
But they did this year, even with the cuts, that the state housing aid stayed constant.
Any other questions on the debt service?
I wish we could make it go away.
You and me both. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dimitrian.
Thank you.
Okay, we're up to the police chief.
Yeah,
Okay, now we're ready for the police department.
good, Don, we're moving along here.
I can't believe that that's all we got. This-
What?
Oh, this is it. For the, that's right. Another breakdown. The principal.
I'd say.
Okay, yeah, okay. No, that's fine.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chief.
Hello, Chief.
Do you have a revised budget, Mr. Council? You said you were giving me a revised budget today? So, any surprises?
Nope.
You heard that, right? No surprises.
No shockers, anyway.
Yeah,
But it's early.
yeah. Okay.
We got time.
Whew. Chief, on a 2,000,005 budget, you show a $17,000 increase. Is that correct?
I believe so.
That includes the animal control officer.
Correct. You just the gas meter?
Yep, the bulk of that increase is in utilities.
Right. That's for sure.
Chief, just a quick, what are we feeding these people for $350?
What is that?
On the Christmas meals?
McDonald's.
A dollar meal.
Is that a drive-through or something?
The dollar meal at Burger King.
Yeah.
Happy Meal, and then they
Pretty
have the
accurate.
toilet plate.
What I do is,
Tries not to arrest people at mealtime.
get a quick release, we get them out the door as quick as possible. What we've done is, I buy the cards, they have like the swipe cards that they have, and the officers will go down there. At one point, they were actually serving a local business in town, and they were allowing them to order. And they said, no, that's Club Fed, we don't do that here. And they now take the cards down, they swipe the card, which gives a receipt, and you have the amount left on the card. And they get their choice of a burger, but basically, it's a kid's meal with a drink. And you know, it's not for the long haul, we do feed them.
Yeah.
That's it.
I was just very curious.
I don't, we don't overindulge them.
You know, there's more complaints about the prisoners not being fed.
Yeah.
And you don't heat their cells either. I've heard that complaint.
That's not
from-
accurate. We do heat them, but you have to remember we're a concrete slab.
We closed the door between the
Yes.
heated section.
There's, in an effort to prevent suicides, the cells have been, there's a plexiglass, there's paint been placed over the bars, and it does restrict the ventilation, but it's a suicide prevention. It's a steel box on a concrete slab, and we do have the plexiglass between the bars.
Chief, there's hardly anything here that's not either covered by contract or is heat, gas, electricity, telephone.
This is true. It is labor intensive and contract. There are a lot of state mandates that I have to comply with. I received word this week that there's a 25% increase in the cost of processing fingerprints through APHIS. We average around 11 cards a month, thereabout, on average. And I did some quick figures on that. It totals out an extra $1,300 a year just to process the cards through APHIS, which is a central data bank for the Attorney General's office. And it went from $30 to $40, which is a 25% increase. Our, the software program we have for our IMC computers went up about $500. All the increases are minimum. This is the second year in a row we've been level funded. Again, I think everyone's same experience has been utilities. My electric bill from this year, from last month to this month, went up $300. From last January to this January, I used 100 less kilowatt hours, and it's $311 more than last year, so.
Chief, on the overtime, I assume you went the same mandates and formulas that they're using in the fire as far as vacations and coverage and...
There is some similarities. I don't have the callback that they have. Fortunately, I think some of the issues are overtime. We've been very good up until this year and the end of last year because we had lost some personnel. I think Mr. Gonzalo and we've pretty much addressed the issue. We've cut down the overtime. It was primarily in the communications area. That's been rectified, I believe. I think we're going to be in much better condition once we get a few things caught, the last end of the contracts. I don't want to speak out of turn on the contracts, but I'm being cautious. Once we get that rectified, I think that's going to be resolved. Monitoring overtime closely, and the orders are out that we have to. That's my weakest account right now. That's where my shortfalls are, and the account is watched. I print out weekly, bi-monthly, and everything is monitored very closely.
Major savings in the dispatcher area.
I believe there will be substantial.
Yeah. Shows.
And also, Chief, on the sick leave buyback, that's contractual?
It is contractual. They can buy, the police officers can buy up to 8 days per year of that given year. And that's what it's averaged out to. That's on the buyback is the current rate per 8 days per man. That's what I budget on that.
Thank you for your time.
I know, that's
It's
just...
tight.
No,
It's-
It's all level funded, so.
We do understand the
The
constraints.
I do comment on the repairs for the cars. We're not going to get new cars next year as it stands right now, and that account is monitored pretty closely. That hopefully we're going to, and we've been fortunate that we've been able to buy extended warranties on all our current cars that we have, and there's not a big surprises coming upon us. We had 2 cars. We put a total of, in 2 cars, 8 transmissions in 2005s, and thank God we had the extended warranties. Through no fault of the officers, it was just that model year, and other departments experienced it as well. So we fortunately bought the extended warranties, and we dodged a bullet.
Okay, Chief. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Now ready?
Next in the hot seat's the town planner.
Good afternoon.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
6 into 7.
I think I had lost some of my pages here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, maybe I can ask a question, since you're now here before the agenda. Where is the comprehensive plan?
Where it's been approved by the state as far as the changes that I've suggested based on their recommendations. That was, I think, the early part of January. So I've just got to get those written into the plan and then submit it back to the state. So, but it was sort of a back and forth with the state on a number of issues, and the last submission was the beginning part of December. They got it back to me early January, and so I've just got to integrate those into the plan. So I would say within 2 or 3 weeks we should be able to get the package back to the state, but they gave me the based on the changes that they asked for and that I made, they were fine with everything that was done. So.
And the status of the GIS?
Yeah, I think the pilot area, I think, is at 100%. There's a beta website, which we've been testing. It's a little bit slow, so I made a couple of recommendations to the GIS consultant, and I think they're at about 70% with the map digitization. So, again, that would probably, I would hope within 2 months we would have it fully operational.
Those two new items we have, which is the web hosting, was this part of that, were these anticipated costs that we knew we were going to run into?
Well, these are, I suggested, are town-wide accounts, because these are, the GIS is not just a planning tool for the planning department, but it'll have utilization for all the departments. But the web hosting is, that was anticipated, and the other one is really just to continue to upgrade, make map changes, add functionality, add layers as we get the base system in place. So obviously, the more layers you have, the more usability you have to the whole system.
Chris, how does, when you talk about other departments using the GIS system, give us an example.
Well, the zoning department, if they have to do notices, they would go directly to a parcel, look up the parcel through a search on the web. They would click on that particular parcel, set the abutter radius. That would generate both a map of all the abutters as well as a list, and generate the Avery labels. So, I mean, there's just applicability in every department.
Good example.
Again, depending on the layers that you add, but certainly the police and fire will have.
It'll be the same in the assessors department. If there's a question about amount of land or whatever, that can be verified through the GIS.
Right, and you can, and spatially, you can also look at comps. So you can look at a bunch of different recently sold houses and look at the pictures as well as the map and put it all together.
Excuse me if I may. The GIS is going to be a fantastic tool for my office because it will really help us with our analysis. And when I had spoken earlier about trying to save the town some money, once we do have a full-blown GIS system where we can load all of my camera data into that GIS as a separate layer, we may be able to end up eventually doing a lot of these revaluations in-house and getting away from the outside vendor.
Thank you.
Make sure it picks up that house on Old Stone Church Road. will you?
Anybody have any further questions of Chris Spencer? Thank you, Mr. Spencer, for coming today, and thank you for your explanations.
Thank you.
Someone from the library here? Okay, then we'll move on to, and the town clerk is conspicuously absent today.
And it's been very cold in Florida. It breaks my heart.
Tax collector?
Page 9.
So tell us the tax collections are up.
They're about the same as they have been. They're not up or, not really down, they're about the same.
You mean
They're
as
pretty
they have
steady.
been in the past year? Whoa.
That's a positive note.
We just got an update on, as a matter of fact, it was
And
as of
uncollected.
yesterday, on a number that was previously reported to you, that last, in January, after the 10-day grace period,
Yeah.
we were $1.1 million
Right.
behind. We're now 880,000 behind. And we have sent out delinquent notices, so that should,
Hopefully we'll be getting some of
Right.
that in, I'm sure.
that should help.
Well-
880 is not quite, no, what were we last year at this time? Was it?
I
mean-
tried to run a report with that.
Yeah.
The system was giving me the fourth quarter added
Okay.
in, so I couldn't really get it. It was around 1 million, but that included the fourth quarter that would have been also due last year at that time.
Oh, all right,
So it
okay,
was-
so we have no, we
Yeah.
do not have current data to
No,
say
not really.
where the 880 puts us being, you know.
Right, compared to the past.
What do you think?
I think once those letters went out, that, we'll start. A lot of people at this point in time, because we don't send them a bill every quarter, forget
Yeah.
or put it with their income tax returns and totally forgot about it, and when they get the delinquent letters, then they're in and they pay it, and they pay interest, of course. My budget is fairly simple, as you can see, and it's pretty much the same as it was, or some things we have changed because we've changed personnel. I have 1.5 clerks instead of 2 full-time clerks. And that changed the longevity because the person has different seniority. Everything else is pretty much the same. My biggest expenses between the supplies and the postage, of course, is when we print the tax bills. Last year, they cost about $8,600, so I don't know where we're going to go with that this year. And our collection expense, that is, let me see, as of February, I'd say we have paid $6,700 out of that collection expense, so can't predict what that'll be for the rest of the year, but 10,000 seemed to be a good estimate.
The collection expense, is that lawyers' fees or just the
That's
mailings?
fees that we pay to the agency that does the collections for us on our, mostly they do the motor vehicle and personal property collections. They actually, go find people.
That's the extreme delinquent. That's the ones prior to the tax sale.
Right.
Yeah.
And our Opal agreement, that's gone up this year, so I just assumed it would be going up again next year. I think it's $3,025 for this fiscal year, so next year probably be even higher.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody from
I
Recreation?
don't see a representative here from Recreation.
Jim, I think that puts you up.
Something, I really think we should call it a day now.
Oh, it's fine. I'm not going to argue with you.
Can I second that?
No, if you have nothing you want to add, I mean, it's obvious where we're at. We're still at, at a cutting stage, and we're still looking at every single number. So, I mean, based on, what we've heard today, you basically are already there with those numbers, so I don't know what else you're going to add. So I don't see a problem with ending the workshop. We're going to get updates at all our regular meetings. If that's your choice, I'm not putting you.
That's up to you. I'm available for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Jim, do you have anything that, that you want to point out?
Well, nothing other than the fact that I'm still looking at various items. I have a contact into the health insurance. I have I've already talked to, there are some minor adjustments here in pension plans, other than the police pension, the state pension plans. There were, I now have a forecast for next year. Some cases it went down, one of them went up a little bit. Overall, it went down, not a significant amount, but
You didn't get on time, the library said.
Yep. Jim, I don't, go ahead. I don't want to lose sight of something.
No, ask
go
the
ahead.
question, go right ahead.
In the docket, as you get towards the end of unfunded liability, retirement,
What page are you on?
although, I'm sorry, page 12. This is more it's also under employee special retirement,
if I,
page 12.
page 12 is of the first docket.
No, on the new docket.
Well, that's where I had,
I'm looking at apparatus maintenance.
Yeah.
Right,
what I was
that's
looking
why
at.
I'm-
I think it's a different place.
okay, you're right.
We'll find it.
10, thank you. It just seems to me that as people look at that on the docket, and this really goes to a language change, not a financial change. Could we just explain that a little bit better so people understand what that means?
Which one are you referring
Well,
to?
now I'm,
Unfunded liability retirement?
yeah,
What exactly does that mean to the average person?
Okay, let me explain first the 253,000. That is not the total. That is only some of the information. What that is, or what it represents, will eventually represent, is an amount of money that the town is committed to paying if someone leaves. In other words, their unused sick leave, their unused vacation.
So that's all the people who are eligible to retire, and what we might have to pay should they all choose that
Not
option.
eligible to retire, should they leave, either through retirement
Okay.
or resignation. And it's not the whole town, because that essentially represents the police and fire.
And so it's not necessarily retirement?
No,
Okay.
it's an unfunded, yeah, I guess that's a misleading when I say retirement. Because we don't have very many that leave voluntarily. They usually retire.
shouldn't
And-
there be at least a footnote on the docket which says, this represents town's obligation to pay sick leave or unused vacation?
Can certainly do that.
Yeah.
And while you're on that item,
Same thing as employee special retirement, FF.
okay, the special retirement,
It should be noted that those were agreements that were entered into upon the retirement of individuals.
To firemen,
Yeah,
right.
It's,
Too far.
that's a liability that's out there.
Yeah, and just say that, so that people know.
Yeah, we're trying to, I guess the attempt is to make the docket more understandable to everybody. The transparency of what is this instead of, what are they hiding here? We're gonna explain exactly what it is, so they'll see this. There's really nothing hidden here. These were things that were done, and it's an obligation that we have. And it should be, like you said, better explained than just special retirement or unfunded liability. Unfunded liability is fine, and you can spell out the categories that fits into it, vacation, sick leave, and so forth, but
and while we're there, if I might just tell you with that 34, you see that's a pretty exact number, 34,031.
yeah. The problem with that is, and we've run into this in the past, because those are the people who've indicated to you that they intend to retire. I understand at our last meeting, we were made aware that we have a couple of policemen who are going to choose to take their retirement because
Right,
of
and
whatever
a possible
situation.
fireman who is going to be going on a disability
Yeah.
retirement.
So, I mean, that we understand and know, that's how that's set. And the other number is a number representing if we took all of the sick leave and vacation, that's accumulated.
At a given
The number
point.
of employees within those departments equals that other figure. And the chances of hitting a number anywhere near that at any one time, but, slim to none, but.
But you're still liable for it, should
Yes.
it happen.
Right, and obviously, we would never request it,
Yeah.
okay, but
No, but
it's
that's
just,
gonna be
it's
one
just
of
to
those.
put it there to
It's one of
know.
those things that are gonna have to show up, because this is part of those new, GASB requirements. They're gonna wanna know what our unfunded liabilities are in other areas, and that's what we're talking about. So I guess you gotta generate the numbers.
And
for
and
those,
if I can just explain that 34,000, in case anyone is wondering, that is an amount that will be remaining as of June 30th for these type of
Yeah.
liabilities. Because, for example, if we take the deputy police chief, he has, I believe it's over $30,000. So come June, we have a portion of that in this year's salary account.
Yeah.
And this would be the remaining amount as of
Yes.
June 30 that we would owe these three individuals.
Yep.
Okay,
That isn't
After-
covered by the current.
by the
Current
current
budget.
salary
Yeah.
account.
And it seemed to me that something like projected obligations remaining for
Yeah.
current employees covering the contractual obligations for sick leave, unused vacations.
Yeah. Anything else other than that? The library's here, so we might as well.
Yeah.
Do
Thanks,
the
Jim.
library.
And obviously, Jim will continue to.
Oh, yeah, there will be continuous updates.
Thanks.
I see we have a representative from the library, and we're a little early for you, but we're ready.
Sorry, hi.
No, you're on time. We're ready.
Hello.
Hello, Cheryl.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi.
Quick. Thank you. Well, it's just about level funded, so.
Again, to make things a little more transparent, I think if you could explain what Grant A salaries are and where they come from.
I'm not sure what Grant A and Grant B means.
Okay.
I'm not sure. That's something that the town has established. It's not my understanding of what a municipal library is, so I'm not sure.
Jim, do you know what Grant A and Grant B?
No, that's historical data, but the only thing I would assume, and let me add, assumption, is that at one time, it was understood that monies appropriated for the library services were in fact a grant. If they did not use them, they were able to retain the excess, but this was years ago. I'm not sure what the current thinking is.
I wonder, I wonder if we just should say salaries,
Right.
operations.
Yeah, 'cause it gives the impression that there's a grant out there somewhere. And, looking at it, it's from the municipal side is where that money's coming from.
Well, we
And-
get grant and aid, and I
Right.
don't know if that was a confusion or not, but I think all municipalities get some sort of grant and aid.
But I think what we're trying to do is let everybody understand that, that the library services this is salaries and this is,
Right.
The operations.
Right.
And as we do in the rest of this is just condensed into 3-line items instead of having it, separated out
Right.
in several. And I think it's just the same thing. It's understanding it's a grant, but it's a grant from the town to the library.
Exactly, as opposed to a grant.
Yeah, as opposed from
Yeah.
funds coming from another source.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it just, and again, for clarifications, it should just be the salaries and so forth.
Although you do have the breakdown in your book of all the line items.
Which are going to equal these same, I take it these numbers we're looking at.
Do you have anything that you'd like to say to us? You want a Jeep?
A Jeep?
A Jeep.
How about a ladder truck?
Well, eventually we'd like a new library, but we can understand that that's a little bit further down the road. We're working with you here.
Pardon me?
We're working with you.
Working with the administrator? Yep.
Yeah.
Just for, as a question, just to know what's going on. In our libraries in town, has our services, the number of people we're servicing gone up?
Yes, it has. Just last month, about more than 7,000 people came through our doors, and 9,000 used our library webpage. We can keep a track on that, and 9,000. The month before that, it was only 4,000. So it is substantial, and I think that what typically happens with library services that when hard times happen, more people turn to the free services that are available. A lot of times when you are looking for a job, you have to apply online. Even McDonald's now requires people to apply online. So it becomes a source for assistance for people to apply for certain insurances, and it just is a convenience. And when people can't afford the internet or can't afford computers, they come to the library and use our resources. So it is a big help. Databases are expensive, so we get a lot of databases because we're part of the consortium through the state. And, so we have a lot of resources that are available to the community that way. So we're a good bang for your buck.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
That's it?
Wow.
You're all finished with me?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks.
Well, Tim, if you have nothing else to add at this point in time, then we're going to,
I have one minor suggestion. Jim, how difficult would it be to have an index? You always find yourself, even at the financial town meeting, what page is that on? Is right up front. Might suggest that is to have an index, library, page blah, blah, alphabetical index, fire department, police department.
Would be hard, but it should be easy when we're flipping through these.
It is, yeah.
For the number of times we do it.
No problem. It'll be on your next issue.
Next issue.
Unless you want this one to be the final issue.
No.
I don't think,
No.
I don't think we're prepared for that to
Yeah.
be the final issue, but, all righty. And that, I guess that's going to conclude this workshop of the
Ooh,
council.
wow, yippee.